Hey y'all, today we are going to be doing some kitchen chores with a little bit of our garden harvest. So what I have right here is these are all of the trays, to my dehydrator, and inside I have the green parts of onion that I dehydrated. So what I did is I harvested some of my onion. I took the bulbs, the actual onion part, I diced all of those up and put it in freezer bags. That way I have it just ready to go. You can get onions that store really well, but I don't really have a good space set up to store onions that way long term. And this wasn't a long-term storing variety of onion anyway. I mostly planted these onions honestly as a pest deterrent. But anyway, I took, like I said, these green parts of the onion and I dehydrated them. And so now I'm going to just grind it all up. That way we can use it as onion powder. So I've actually never... You want to help? Okay, can you bring your chair around over here? I have a little helper today. Okay. I've actually never used this contraption. My husband uses it for coffee. Of course, it's all been cleaned out. But my hopes and dreams, and you're supposed to be able to do herbs in it as well. My hopes and dreams are that I can grind this up into a really fine consistency. So we'll see how that goes. I don't know quite how much I should fill it. A line arrow with block. Okay. All right, Zoe, are you ready? Okay, we're gonna push this button right here. Let me scoot you a little closer to mommy, okay? It's gonna be loud, all right? Push the button. Oh, was it so loud? I think we're gonna have to use the big machine. We'll switch and we'll use the big food processor. Womp womp, Zoe. Womp womp. We tried to do it a new way. That's okay. Oh, let me get the blade. Nice. Yeah. I took it out because I thought I would only have to use this for. Oh, thank you. Oh, I think it's getting caught up under there because of the shape of the little onions. Okay, so we're gonna use this one. So let's put all of these green onions in the food processor. Starting to smell a bit oniony, which it smelled very oniony while these were dehydrating. Good job, sugar. Okay. Oh no, I was gonna. Yeah, this is the last one. Wonderful. Okay. You want to push the button? Okay, this one's going to be big loud. Are you ready? It's this button right. Hold on. This button right here. You know, push it all the way down. Ready? Set. Okay, so one thing I'm noticing as this is chopping everything up is, I don't know how well you can see, but there is moisture on the inside of the lid. And so that tells me that these did not dehydrate completely the way I thought they had. And this is my first time doing it, so no big deal. I'm just gonna put them back in the dehydrator now that they're kind of chopped up, super coarse, and make sure that they get dehydrated the rest of the way. Okay, so I'm gonna dump this just around the edges a bit. Here are my 2 trays, back, ready to go, and I'm just gonna go pop this into the dehydrator. Okay, so next I have these beautiful, look at this. This is called, I might butcher it, cucuzzi squash. It is an Italian squash. This is my first year growing it. And you can use it just the same way you would use any zucchini. There is a more traditional Italian dish that they use this in that I do want to try. But for these first two that I harvested, I am just going to shred them up in the food processor and package them up in little individual servings. That way I can pull them out of the freezer really easily to make zucchini bread or muffins, which my kids love, which means that I love because they are very picky eaters. And they'll actually eat those. So I know they're getting some kind of a vegetable in them that makes me very happy. And I also can throw them into like soups or stews as well. So
I'll help mommy.
You gonna help mommy?
Mm-hmm.
No way.
Aha!
Aha, okay. All right, we're gonna do it. We're gonna cut it. We're gonna cut it up and we're gonna put it in this food processor to shred it, hopefully. Y'all, I am gonna be honest, I never, and I mean never, never, never use my food processor. So it makes me a little crazy. I'm just saying there's a big possibility that I could do something ridiculous. I'm cutting. Look what that looks like. You see the inside? We have some seeds in here. Wow, should we save some of the seeds? Yeah, that's always a good idea. So mommy is gonna pull some of these seeds out.
What is that?
Oh, look, there's a big old seed. Okay, let's get a paper towel, okay? Put some of these seeds on a paper towel and let them dry out.
What is that, mommy?
Oh no! I'm sorry, Zoe. Oh my. Okay, and let them dry out so we can save some of the seeds.
It's on my eye, mommy.
Okay, look. I know, I dropped it on your arm. Was that so crazy? We're gonna put the little squash here in the top. And we have our little plunger. And I'm gonna turn it on. And in theory, this should shred it. In theory. What do you think? Yeah. I wonder if I can just, this doesn't want to stay together.
It's so fun.
It's so funny.
It's like that.
Okay, let's try again. Oh wow, look at all that goodness. Yay, okay, so I'll go ahead and start packaging this up.
It's big.
Okay, so I'm just gonna label this gallon freezer bag, and then I'll put a cup into a small bag and then fill this bag with the small bags. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think I should actually do 2 cups.
I did it.
Because that is what my recipe calls for when I make the bread or the muffins. So I think that would make a lot more sense to do it in little 2-cup increments. Let's start working on our next giant squash. Here I'm just continuing to do what I did with the first squash, where I'm just cutting it up into smaller pieces. I'm going to save some of the seeds from the squash and then just using my food processor here to shred it up. This is the aftermath, which we've made a bit of a mess, but we have, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 little bags, so 16 cups total from those 2 squash. So I'm just gonna get those into my bigger freezer bag here and get those into the freezer and then clean up all of this disaster. The last thing that I have to do right now in the kitchen, at least for today, where the harvest is concerned, is work on some tomatoes. So I just pulled these out of the freezer. What I've been doing is, as my tomatoes come in, I wash them, I let them hang out on my windowsill for a couple of days, and then I will top them, like take the core out, and I just stick them in freezer bags. I have a bag of cherry tomatoes, as well as a bag of just regular tomatoes for making sauce. Now I am growing like paste tomatoes. These, I believe, are the San Marzano. They are slow coming in this year for me. I may have overcrowded my tomato plants because I just couldn't bear to not have more, but it's kicking me in the butt. And then these are the black creme tomatoes. So I just keep a bag going, you know, as the tomatoes come in. Right now, like I said, this time of year, they just come in. Let me do the cherry tomatoes first. They just come in a little bit at a time. So as they come in, I harvest them, wash them. These have already been washed. And get them into freezer bags. Definitely fit my little paste tomatoes. Now, paste tomatoes are better in terms of sauce making because they do not have as much of the like juice and all of that inside. They won't have to cook down as long, and they're just better in that regard. But these black creme tomatoes, I mean, we are growing more than our family can possibly eat fresh. So I always keep just a couple in the fridge, and then the rest I'm putting into the freezer to put into our sauce, because I'm certainly not gonna let them go to waste. Even though they are a bit juicier, they actually really aren't super seedy. Like, I don't really care for, even for my slicer tomatoes, to be like crazy over the top seeds. Do I think I can fit? No, I don't think I can. Okay. I don't like, even for my slicer tomatoes, to be like really super seedy. That's just not something that I particularly care for. So I try not to grow varieties that are super crazy seedy, but even though these are not the quote unquote ideal tomato for sauce, they are still wonderful. And you can see there's the core out, and you see they're very meaty. I don't know if you can see that very well, but it's a pretty meaty tomato. So I'm hoping, I've never made sauce with this variety of tomato before. I'm hoping that it won't have to cook down forever and ever. But yeah, like I said, I'm still not gonna let them go to waste just because we can't eat that many fresh that quickly. Some of my tomatoes have started splitting some, which is okay. Like, it's not horrible for that to happen to your tomatoes. When it does happen, it does mean that they could get diseased more quickly. But what's causing it is we have been having crazy thunderstorms. So just these spurts of, oh my gosh, that leaf is stuck to me. These spurts of like tons and tons of rain. And so tomatoes are cracking a bit. Okay, so there's my tomatoes. So I'm just gonna take these and get them into the freezer. Okay, I wanted to bring you out to my garden very quickly because it has been raining and there was a little lull in the rain. So I'm trying to take advantage of that as quickly as I can. So let me show you what we have going on here in our garden. This is a quick little overview of what the garden is looking like. I have actually expanded part of the garden since I filmed this last week, so I will need to show you that pretty soon, but this gives you kind of a general idea. This first part over here, I tried to repurpose this grill that was just not something we were going to be able to use for grilling anymore. Just thought I would give it a try. It's working out okay-ish, but those are some peppers in there. And then down here are some sunflowers that my daughter planted that are just struggling so badly. Something just keeps eating them up. And then here in this little planter is some holy basil. That is part of the mint family. So that is why it is in its own container, because that will take over. Now all back here around this little fence, those are all black-eyed peas. So I'm hoping that those will start taking off a little bit more even soon. My goal is to have enough black-eyed peas harvested that I can have enough to make for Thanksgiving dinner, like save them up and use them for that. Now in these two little rows, what I have here is here and, well, let's see. I have at the front two are okra, or the front four, sorry, are okra. And then I have some melon back here, some watermelon that I am hoping takes off. I have one here and one here. I've never had success with watermelon before, but we shall see. Coming up this cattle panel right here are 3 different varieties of tomato. And I can see I have a couple down here that I need to grab. As soon as my tomatoes have put on like a little bit of color, I usually grab them instead of letting them ripen on the vine. And I know that's like a very hot topic, controversial, whether or not you should do that. I do it because otherwise birds and squirrels get them so fast, and I don't want to feed all the wildlife. I want to feed me, so I go ahead and take them once they've gotten some color and bring them inside and let them ripen inside. Okay, we keep going around these little tomatoes. Here you can see in this garden bed I just have some beautiful little zinnias. I am not a flower gardener, but I love just popping some flowers in here and there for the pollinators and for my heart, because it makes my heart happy. And down here I have all different kinds of peppers. So we have some bell peppers coming. This year is the first year I have had much success with bell peppers. And I think it is because I got them started quite a bit sooner. These are a really neat variety. I forget what it's called, but it is some kind of like striped pepper. And I'm really excited for those because they just look so fun. And then a little bit back over here, we have some hot peppers that are doing pretty well. These are Georgia flame peppers. And then somewhere I have a jalapeno, but it may have succumbed. We've been having just a ton of pest issues this year in the garden. Okay, so right to the other side of this, over here I have more tomatoes, and then coming up this arch is where that cuckoozy squash is planted, and it was so beautiful. Before I harvested them, they were just hanging down. It looked so neat. And right on the other side in this little bed is my tomatillo plant. All right, I've come around to the other side so you can see better, but this is that tomatillo. I have 2 tomatillo plants there. And then you can see more of those tomato plants here. There's some San Marzano, and then this beautiful tomato plant. These are little cherry tomatoes, and it is called Indigo Rose, I believe. And how fun is that? That is such a fun color. On the back of this, we have some more beautiful flowers, and then 2 more tomatillo plants, but this variety of tomatillo is a purple tomatillo, so I'm pretty excited about that. And then just some nasturtiums at the front of this bed, and you guessed it, more tomatoes on the other side that go up this arch trellis. Have some beautiful slicers as well as some more of these cherry tomatoes all in here. You can see them. On this side, this little bed is looking a little sad because I just pulled a bunch of squash out, but we have some okra down at this side that looks like it is getting ready to flower right here. Looks like that one is getting ready to flower, and okra blossoms are so beautiful. There's another little okra right beside it that might be a bit too close. I think some of these volunteered themselves, as well as this little carrot here. Now this bed was filled with squash, but the squash vine borers really got to it, so I pulled that out and I've put in right here a watermelon that I'm hoping will just kind of fill up this space quite a bit. This plant coming up with these beautiful yellow flowers is either a cucumber or a cucamelon, and I really thought it was like dead ages and ages ago, but like here we are. So I haven't harvested anything from it yet. We shall see how that goes. Coming to this other side, I do have right here in the lid of that grill a little tomato. It's hanging on, it's alive, it's not thriving by any means. It was just an experiment. I had an extra start, and I thought, oh, I'll just plop it in there and kind of see what happens. So I'm not disappointed by that at all. It is just an experiment. Now this bed has been giving me so many fits, but we do have some carrots there in the middle that look like they're doing pretty well. I have onions around the outside, and the onions were planted in this bed way too close together, but that was on purpose. My intention with planting the onions was because I just wanted to use them as a pest deterrent more than anything, and it has not helped at all. This was a tiny little pumpkin that I thought was totally dead, but it seems to be trying to hang on. We'll see. Of course, some weeds, and then down at the end, way down there, we have a little bit of Swiss chard that was really getting taken over, but seems to be coming back. This right here, we have this ivy everywhere in the yard. Everywhere, everywhere. It gets into absolutely everything. There's just like no convincing it to go be with Jesus. At the end, I have, again, some onions that I was mostly trying to use for pest control. And here in the middle, a kind of sad looking cherry tomato plant that is putting on fruit though, so we'll see how this little guy fares. I just pulled potatoes out of both of these two round planters, so now I have put rosemary in this one, and in the second one down here, that is a pumpkin plant. And we have one more planter left right here. This planter has some more of those zinnias that I love, as well as tomatoes going up the panel. There's a little pepper plant here in the middle. Some more carrots that I just kind of threw in there. And then this little pumpkin plant down here that has been going through it. You can see some damage that was on there. I think, it's starting to get new growth. Oops. It's starting to get new growth, so I think maybe I finally saved it. But you can see, like, look at that stem. It has just, it's been going through it. We've been working hard to keep this guy alive. My hope was that this pumpkin could trail up this old, like, planter stand. I thought that would be nice, so that's why that's there. That was my initial hope. Now my hope is just like, maybe I can keep this thing alive. So that is a super quick sped up version of what my garden is looking like right now. I'm trying to beat the rain. I'm gonna grab some of those tomatoes that I saw that are starting to turn, and then I'm gonna get back inside and get them all washed up and everything so that we can move on to the next step in getting them ready for sauce and all the fun stuff. Okay, see, this is what I mean. Look at that. Oh, so frustrating. I don't like sharing. Put it over there and then the birds can just have it. I try to fertilize my garden about once a week, and I call it like Fertilize Friday, which is so cheesy, but it just kind of helps me remember in my mind, like, oh yeah, you need to get out there and do that. So that is what I'm about to do, and I'm gonna show you kind of my little like witch's brew concoction that I use to spray my plants down with. But first, let me show you my shirt that I got. I got this earlier this year for Autism Awareness Month. My son is autistic, and there's just tons of fun things all over the shirt that just kind of celebrate autism and our little sensory seeking friends. So I just wanted to show it off because I like it. All right, let me show you my fertilizer. My shed is a total disaster. Don't judge. But what I do is I use this little pressurized sprayer concoction, and I do have garden only written on there just so my husband doesn't try to do something else with it. And I mix in here the things I want to use to spray all over the garden. So this is a 3-gallon container. One thing that I've been using, because I have had the worst problem with pests and ants and all the other kind of pests, so this was recommended to me. It's Captain Jack's Dead Bug. I can link it below. The active ingredient is spinosad. It's approved for organic gardening. I do think that it's helping. So I just always, it doesn't matter how many times I've done this. This is like the 3rd time I've used this container. I still have to look to remind myself how much to put per gallon. So it says 4 tablespoons per gallon. So it comes with this handy dandy little measurer here. So that is the first thing I put in there. And then the next thing that I put in there, my label came off of this, but this is fish fertilizer. I can also link it for you. It smells as horrible as you're imagining. Actually, I take that back. Whatever you're imagining, times it by 10. It's so disgusting, but it works so well. So I don't really measure this one. I just kind of like let the spirit lead me, so to speak. Put just a little bit in there. Oh look, already with the flies coming around, like, ooh, what's that? And now I'm just gonna take this over and fill it up with water and start spraying all the plants. I feel like I should tell you that I completely drenched myself with the water hose on accident, but here we go. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna work on spraying the roots and like around like the base of the plant so it'll get to the roots, I mean. But I'm also gonna spray all of the foliage, the leaves and stuff. I can't talk. Foliage. I don't think I'm trying to say what I'm saying what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean. Let's get to it. Now I'm just walking around my garden with my little spray container and spraying down all of the leaves and around all of the roots on pretty much every plant that I have in the garden. Now, if I do have some plants that are struggling a little bit more, I will take a little bit more time to just make sure that I'm getting that fertilizer around the bottom of the plant so it can get down into those roots, and I'll just make sure that it kind of gets a little bit more of all that goodness. But that's just on the plants that are struggling. For the most part, I just walk around and kind of give everything a good spray down, and all of that good stuff gets absorbed through the leaves and stems, and especially through the root system as well. I used to do this strictly on the roots, like at the base of the plants, but I learned, I cannot remember where, but I learned that it's really good to do it on the leaves as well. Now here I'm just taking those dried onion bits that are finally dry now and using the little grinder here and getting them all blended up so they're super, super fine. And then I put them into a mason jar and use this little pink thing to get all of the air out of the jar. I have a few starts here that I'm wanting to get into the ground. This one is a butternut squash. So one thing that I didn't realize when I very first started gardening is I felt like I would get all my starts or all of my plants for the year and get those planted in the spring, and then that was it. But really, gardening is just a ongoing, like a continuous process. It's not just something you plant some things and then you're done. I've learned now that I'm constantly adding more starts. I'm just gonna put some mulch around this. Get some of this grass out. I'm constantly, throwing in some seeds or adding more starts, what have you, to just keep the abundance, keep the garden producing. So here I have a butternut squash, and I'm hoping that I can train it to kind of come out and go around this direction. Now, right here in this area, I have my little volunteer okra plant, but I also have down here these are ground cherries, but it's just really not taking off. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave it there. But at the very end of my trellis here, I'm gonna put in another cucuzzi. Cucuzzi, I think is how you say it. It's that squash I have on the other side of the garden that's like just going way up over the trellis, and it's so beautiful. So I'm gonna put another one in right here. My hope is that this will kind of like take off and fill out this side of the trellis a little bit. And then of course that I will also have some more delicious squash. I have not noticed on the other cucuzzi that I have on the other side, and that's 2 plants that I have on the other trellis. I have not noticed the squash vine borers on those, or the pests, as badly as I did on my other squash plants. So I think that having it trellised up has been really helpful. My next garden chore is to trim or prune my tomato plants. We get a lot of humidity here in the Austin, Central Texas area, so it's important to just make sure your tomatoes have good airflow to help prevent disease. So I'm starting by focusing on taking off any of the dead leaves, and then I'm also going to focus on anything that is like yellowing or looks a little diseased or just like icky. And if you look where I'm marking right here, in a minute you'll see Zoe will be standing there, and you can see a big difference between what the tomato plant looks like now and then when she is standing there. And that is because I was able to remove a lot of the suckers that weren't producing anything and just open that up for more airflow for the plant so that it'll be healthier. I just noticed that my peppers are starting to get a little bit of color on them. I'm so excited. There was another one over here. Oh, that's so exciting! I have had the worst luck with bell peppers like every year, so I'm excited to see some peppers starting to like come to life. Yay! I'm continuing to work on these tomato plants on the other side of my garden. The other thing that I'm doing, you may have seen Zoe coming back and forth, and she was bringing me little clips so that I could pin or like clip up the branches and clip them to that trellis. So any of the vines that I'm not wanting to take off but I need to give extra support, I'm using these little tomato clips on them. And they're just little clips I got off of Amazon that have been really, really super helpful for this kind of project. Thank you for taking some time out of your day to spend it with me and see what I get up to in the garden and with my harvest over the course of a week. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.